Namaste to all my dear friends, masters, and gods. I welcome all of you to Vidhyan Wednesday sessions. Thank you all for joining today and showing up for our weekly Vidhyan Wednesday sessions. Today, the topic which we are going to discuss about is something which is very important to us and something which happens to us on a very regular basis. And one small correction made with our behavior brings a great change in the way we respond to life. Now, just go back to your flashback, okay? And think about a situation, a very a situation which would have got a threat to you. When I say a threat, it need not be just a physical one. It could be an emotional threat, a mental threat, anything which made you think, which has just made your mind blank. And after that, you thought, what next? A big question mark. So think about that kind of a situation which happened to you. And I'm sure everybody goes through these kind of situations day in and day out. So, for these kind of, or for any those kind of threatening situations, what was your reaction? Now, examples about these situations I will give you a while later, but you tell me what kind of reactions did you have? I'll give you some options. First of all, the reaction is fight. Okay, like you fight for yourself or you take a very strong stand. That means you put all your energy to come out of it. Second is flight, or this can also be called as we avoid or ignore the situation and we run away. Okay, and the option C is something else apart from these two. Okay, something else. It would change based on each of you individually. So please respond in the chat box and let me know what option or step do you take during any kind of threatening situation. Is it A, fight mode where you put all your strength to come out of it? B is flight mode where you just avoid, ignore, or run from the situation? Or C is any other option? Okay, I'll be awaiting for all your responses. All right. So, first let us discuss about the option A and option B, that is fight or flight mode. Fight and flight mode is body's automatic stress response when it feels threatened. The threat can be real, it could be emotional, it could be mental. In olden days, like in the ancient days, the threat was only called a threat when a snake just came in front of you, or a tiger came to attack you, or when there is a real life danger. When it existed, it was called as a threat. But in today's era, in today's Kali Yuga, what is a threat? I'll give you some example. A genuine threat, you walking and a dog suddenly barking, something really unexpected. Correct? That is a threat. Another threat is your boss sending you an email or just calling you and telling, hey, let's just catch up in next 30 minutes. I need to talk to you. What happens in that 30 minutes? The mind gives 3,000 options of what will the boss speak to me. Will he fire me? Will he demote me? Will he pull out the report of my timings, all those sort of things. And what will happen finally? The mind will go to a threat mode. Why did the boss call? Okay, so that is one kind of thing. Another one, a child is crying loudly, emotional threat. Just now the mother has sat relaxed, suddenly she hears the child crying and she's like, oh, again I have to get up, again I have to do things. Sometimes it becomes a threatening situation also. Okay? Someone, you are going in a crowd and a group of people are just looking at you, and again they're continuing their talk. And you start thinking, oh, they're judging me, psychological threat. These, whatever I'm speaking, is a very common thing. So, what happens? Your body reacts the same way in all these situations. It could be either fight or flight. Either your body will jot down all its energies to fight the situation, like whatever happens, I'll win it. Or the body will say, let me just leave, let me just ignore this situation, let me just avoid, let me not go to the parties, let me not do these kind of works, let me not, shift the job, or I don't like this environment, let me not walk the streets which is not safe enough, avoid. So think now, what kind of solutions does your mind actually takes? Is it fight or flight? Now, since you have understood the options better, now just please post it in the chat box. What kind of situation solutions would you opt for it? Now, let me tell you what exactly happens during the fight flight mode. So there is a mode, okay? Like when we turn on the switch is on and the electricity passes and the fan turns on, the AC turns on, the light turns on, right? Similarly, and when we turn off the switch, everything gets turned off. Similarly, when the situation comes, we have two options. First option is flight and fight. Both are like the same options, okay? When you turn it on, there are certain symptoms. Like when the fight and flight mode is turned on, the heart rate really increases. The breath becomes very fast. The muscle tightens. Okay. The mind starts its overactive mode, which is called as overthinking. The stomach absolutely shuts down. Emotions become intense. Like, for example, some accident about which you have heard, or some news has broke down about somewhere something has happened, and reading that, what happens? Your heart rate increases. You start feeling tensed. It would have happened in some other country, but you start feeling tensed, right? The mind starts thinking, what if it happens here? Simulations. And suddenly you don't feel like eating. It would have happened many times when you heard some news. Maybe it has happened somewhere, or it has happened with your closed ones or your friends, or very, very in the near inner circle. And it directly impacts your system where you don't feel like having food. Just 10 minutes ago, you were very hungry, and then, the hunger is shut down. Like I remember once during my childhood in my school days, I remember one day I was very hungry because there was so much of shifting and everything happening in our home. And from morning I was waiting, when will we actually have lunch? When will the lunchtime come? And, where are we going? And I was very excited about it. And suddenly we heard a news that someone in the family has met with an accident. And suddenly, altogether, all the hunger in the body just went away. So naturally, the body was feeling hunger. But when a threatened news came, when uh, I wouldn't say threatened news, but someone suddenly meeting with an accident, it's like a shock. And the body suddenly shifts to fight and flight mode, because of which all these things starts happening. You start overthinking, what if this happens, what if this happens, and that directly have an impact on your food, on your digestive system. Okay, so this mode is called as fight and flight mode. So here actually another way, if you say, I don't know if it is a fight or flight mode, is if you see any of these kind of symptoms, you should understand that you have shifted to that mode. So today these kind of modes get activated. They just get opened up with an email with expectations, other expectations on you, and these things gets opened. The family responsibilities trigger fight and flight mode. Overthinking triggers fight and flight mode. Judgments, deadlines, it triggers these modes. So fight and flight this mode is meant for survival, not for daily life. We must understand this. Only when something came on our survival, remember, not even on others, when it came directly on our survival, then a fight and flight mode getting activated is fine. But otherwise, this mode should not get opened. For everything in our day to day life, whenever we start switching to the fight and flight mode, that is why we feel drained, irritated, and emotionally unstable. In ancient era, you ask any woman, are you tired, or are you not feeling well, or anything of these kind of things? People used to say, no, I'm good, I'm peaceful, I'm enjoying my life. But today you ask anyone, are you feeling drained or emotionally unstable or irritated? They say yes. The reason is the fight and flight mode is turned on for every other thing. So now let us understand what happens in the body when this, uh, you know, the spiritual science behind it. We all know that there is something called as Ida Nadi and Pingla Nadi, which is called as Ida Pingla, right? So Ida is, it represents the feminine side of us. Pingla Nadi, it represents the masculine side of the system. So, Idam Nadi is connected to the moon. It is connected to the cooling and calming nature, to the restorative nature. So, whenever we feel peaceful, whenever we feel emotionally settled, whenever you know our observation is on our breath, whenever the digestion is going very good in our body, okay, whenever the mind is very quiet, whenever there is a good sleep, that means we are in the ida mode. That means the feminine side of us is activated, okay. And the opposite to it, or the pingla nadi, okay, when a person is more towards it, 50-50 ratio on both sides is good. But when a person is on the pingla side, what happens? The masculine side of that person gets activated, which is good. But a masculinity on the, if it gets activated on a extensive mode, then what happens? Irritation comes, emotions, emotional burden happens, okay, mind starts overthinking. So, all these things, it is nothing but, in short form, it is fight and flight mode, which is nothing but the pingla side of us is getting activated. Just before I started, I mean, when I started, I told you one thing, that in ancient days, the threat was considered when something which came on the death, right? And at that time, when we turn on the fight and flight mode, it is good. And if you see, even in ancient days, for any kind of fight, men used to be sent forward because they have all those masculine powers more than a woman, right? So this clearly tells us this fight and flight mode, it belongs to the masculine nature, which can be there in both male and females. So it has to be turned on exactly when it has to be turned on. In our day to day lives, in our everyday lives, if we turn on this fight and flight mode, then we tend to lose a lot of energy. So then you might ask me, okay, then how do I react? Yes, if an email is sent to me, or my boss asks me to come and meet, or suddenly the child cries, or suddenly some unexpected situation comes, I will break out, or I will not understand how to handle it. Then which perspective shall I take in? At this stage only comes the calmness, or the, we should use the wisdom of the brain. Like, we should respond with the solutions rather with the reactions. And also at this time is where meditation comes into picture. You see, whenever a person meditates, what happens? Both Ida and Pingla, feminine side and masculine side, it gets balanced. And then whatever solution comes, it comes purely out of the wisdom. So, whenever you are in fight and flight mode, always remember the Pingla Nadi is just not activated, but it is dominant. So, whenever any situation comes, just again go back to the balance mode. Just return back to the balance mode. How? Just by observing your breath. A simple example is, okay, suppose if you are in the traffic signal and it is almost 5 minutes and there is no green signal, and you start feeling frustrated, irritated, immediately bring it to your awareness that your Pingla side is getting more activated and dominant. Just for few minutes, go back to your breath, accept the situation, and you will see you have moved towards Ida. That means you start accepting things. That's why we say whenever there is acceptance in life, everything goes smoothly. And acceptance is the highest quality of feminine energy. So, always, whenever a situation comes, even if you're reacting, it is okay. But immediately understand that, okay, I am reacting. That means I am in the mode of fight or flight. I'll tell you what happens if we don't identify this and we don't change our mode. The mind starts predicting worst of the worst case scenarios. And today it is happening all around the world where people are always overthinking. You're seeing that, just see, look around you, always people are, what if this happens to me? What if the money is not sufficient tomorrow? What if my children leave away and go? What if he dies? What if this happens? What if this doesn't work out? Even though things are working great in your life, still the mind questions what if. That means threatened mode. Then you'll start thinking, okay, what should I do? I should safeguard myself. But when you are on the feminine side, you start accepting the reality as it is, and you understand, yes, the karma or the destiny cannot be changed. The death which is approaching cannot be postponed. But yes, what I can do with it, what I can do with the things I have, how can I make my life better? You just shift the perspective, and so many things in your life changes. When we are on the fight and flight mode more, what happens? We lose our access to our creative thinking. Now, you may say that, okay, once or twice I'm thinking, I go into that mode, what's wrong in it? Remember, every time we are opting something, our system inside rewires to that option more. For example, simple example, there is a healthy object and there is, sweets and pastries and ice creams on the other side. We think, okay, just once, let me have a pastry. Once you will have. Then what will happen after 2 days? You'll think, it's okay, let me have one more time. Again, you'll have. After that, this time you'll not wait for 2, 3 days. This time in one day you'll have. After fourth attempt, you'll say, okay, I had in the morning, let me have in the evening also. So what happens? Once you attempted something, your body asks you to do it again and again and again, and it slowly becomes a wiring inside where you naturally your hand starts taking the sweets. At the same side, a person who's very disciplined and always chooses healthy options, you look at their patterns, even though in the mid of a great party, you just ask him, please have some sweets, and he will say, no, no, I don't want to have. I'm following a disciplined diet for myself, so I will not have it. Why? Because he's used to choose, his hands automatically go towards the healthier and more nutritional options. Why? Because he has wired himself like that. The inner is tuned in that way. So he will always opt for a better and nutrient dense options. So the body, whatever we choose, the body will slowly start choosing that again and again. So, if for any small thing you're panicking and you are used to that mode again and again another situation comes and you panic, again another situation comes, you panic, any small thing happens, you overthink, another thing happens, you overthink. So, what happens? Your brain, your internal nervous system, your entire nadis will start reprogramming itself in a way that whatever situation happens, let us overthink. Why? Because last 10 times we have done it, so next time also let us do it. Even a small thing will happen, you will overthink again and again and again. So the body starts rewiring itself in that way. So, what happens because of this? We naturally lose access to our creative thinking. Another way is people start speaking very, very fast and very, very louder without realizing. You see, when a person is panicked or shocked, what happens? They don't realize in what tone they are speaking and in what kind of words they are using or in what pace they are using. They are just in rush. So the communication becomes very, very reactive and not conscious. And mainly, the body starts releasing stress hormones, which has a direct impact on the sleep. Today everybody is recommending sleep well, sleep for 6 hours, 8 hours. And yes, everybody is ready to sleep for 6 and 8 hours. But just see, even though you're sleeping for 6 and 8 hours, for how many hours you're getting deep sound sleep? Even when you're going for bed, the body keeps thinking, why survival first? Why? Because the body is tuned to it. Another symptom of fight and flight mode is you feel disconnected from people around you. Anyone you see, you start looking them from an eye of threat. What if this person will harm me? What if this person will leak my secrets? What if they will take advantage of my friendship? So, you cannot feel empathy or softness. This is fight and flight mode. You start forgetting things very easily. The memory drops. Why? Because the short term memory becomes very weak. You can't recall what you just saw or heard. And finally, the body feels very heavy, drained after each and every episode of life. And hence, lot of energy is going wasted. So, all these things are big symptoms of fight and flight mode. If we don't, the moment we don't have this information, we always start react in the same way. But once you have information about fight and flight mode, then you will start changing your life. What is the opposite of fight and flight mode? Rest and respond mode. Very simple, right? Rest and respond. In meditation, whenever we meditate, what happens? Great rest comes to the body and then we only respond to situations. Heartbeat goes back to normal. It is not fast, it is not high, and the body feels very safe again. Logical thinking gets activated in this rest and uh, the respond mode, the rest and respond mode. So, only where we must think and the right way of thinking gets activated. And emotion settles very naturally, be it anger, fear, jealousy, irritation, it just drops off within seconds. And the best way to test in what mode you are is your digestion greatly improves. The body wants food, it loves food. And you start listening better to people. You understand people clearly without reacting. And we start feeling connected to everybody. We feel warmth and compassion. We want people, we want to respond, we want to make new friendships with them. And the creativity within you, it starts opening up and it starts flowing very easily in form of ideas. and the mind is always relaxed. And the best part of this mode is decision making becomes very, very clear. And in this mode of rest and restore, the body starts healing, cells repair, immunity just boostens up, and wherever there is stress, it just drops off. So, in your day to day life, wherever you are in going in fight and flight mode, just wait for a while and come back to rest and respond mode. As I said, you're in traffic. Don't opt for fight and flight mode by getting angry or honking continuously or rushing. Just tell yourself it's okay. I'll reach soon. Let me just breathe and relax. You know, by mistake or something, something gets spilled on the floor. Instead of reacting or yelling, just say, okay, let me just clean it or let me just take help of others. Whenever, if at all, you get an email or phone call from the boss that we need to talk, instead of panicking or overthinking, just calmly prepare yourself for the conversation. Because remember, like nothing is life threatening. If there is any kind of, hurtful conversations that is happening, you hear something, instead of attacking or silently withdrawing from there, just sit calmly, hear them out, and say, let me understand from which perspective they are talking. So, this will give you a great relief. Whenever you have, just see this, even this quality lot of people will have whenever a person has a long to do list, a lot of things which has to be done. When a fight and flight mode is on, either people get panicked or people get absolutely shut down. Like, day after tomorrow there is a travel and you need to pack a lot. Suddenly the mind goes in a panic mode. What should I pack? What should I do? Instead of this, you can just prioritize, and you can start doing things slowly. I remember long ago, once I realized that whenever a travel day used to come closer, it used to build some kind of anxiety within me, and I never knew when such kind of thing was there. After some 1, 2, 3, 4 travels, then I noticed a day before travel is with, a little bit of uneasiness. When I researched on that topic, I understood there is something called as packing anxiety, which most of the people across the globe have. And more than 90% people are even not aware about it. Then I understood, oh, there is something called as packing anxiety. And whenever you have to pack suitcase, it comes within you in form of resistance. And the packing which has to happen in 30, 40 minutes, it sometimes take up hours together. One day I remember I had to go somewhere and it was just few days of trip. And I was packing the suitcase for almost 10 to 12 hours. Means put this, put that, then this, then that. It just took 12 hours, which was half of the day. Then I realized something is really wrong. For packing a small suitcase, you don't take so much of time. Then when I researched, I understood that there is something called as packing anxiety. And then from there, I thought I should not go into, the stress mode, because it is fight and flight mode then, right? Every time you're getting stressed, every time you're feeling restless before the day of packing, then something is not right. Then I started every time before, if tomorrow is the day of travel, 2 or 3 days before, I would prepare a list of essentials, non-essentials, and what all things has to be carried very neatly in compartments. Then I pack everything even 24 or 48 hours before the travel, and I keep the suitcase aside. When I started doing it, from past many of my travels, I saw there was a great relief. There was no stress before traveling, there is no resistance, and always whenever I see the packed suitcase even 24 or 48 hours before, the mind is calm and relaxed. So what did I do? I have identified the pattern. Before it was a fight and flight mode, but now I'm in a rest and restore mode. So This has greatly helped me. So, this is also a very common across many households where there is a party tomorrow, there's a get together tomorrow, and suddenly there's a big list and people get panicked. So, always see when you go to fight and flight mode, underline it and change your pattern. Another thing, whenever people criticize, it happens that naturally people go into a defensive mode, right? Which is again fight or flight mode. But instead, just rest and respond. That means observe without reacting. It is a huge challenge, but especially, when people are, especially public figures, they go through this a lot. And there is a great learning where you do not react, but you just respond. So, another thing, whenever unexpected expenses come up, anxiety comes. Instead, we must look for solutions, instead of panicking. So, whenever we identify these kind of problems, we will easily switch the modes. Suppose you are there and too many people are talking around you and you feel irritated. It's a fight and flight mode. But even in that masses, you can just observe your breath and, just come back to the normal grounding. If there is a messy home, you might feel stress and irritation. That's a fight and flight mode. But responsive mode is one at a time, set righting the home. Yes, a big another situation is waiting for results. Whenever you wait for any kind of results, it's a fight and flight mode, nervousness comes in, right? But the rest and respond mode is when you just say, let anything happen, I'll accept and I'll be patient. It's a rest and response mode. The more we train ourselves towards the rest and response mode, the more and more we are actually towards the feminine energies. Everyone, they have to learn the feminine qualities, be a man or woman. We may be in a female body, but we may have masculine energies more. Remember, masculine energies are mostly outwards and feminine energies are mostly inwards. That's the reason why, if you compare a man and a woman takes less time to come into meditation, or once she starts practicing meditation, very easily she can go inwards. Because the feminine qualities are very close to nature. And in every given situation of our life, we must see what mode are we opting. Is it a masculine mode or is it a feminine mode? And this is very, very important. So, I really hope that this session has given a lot of information to you. Information is the first key step in bringing any kind of change. If suppose there are two tubes in front of you, both looks like water, but one is amruta and the other one is visha, which is poison. Okay, both looks alike. Now, if you do not have the information of what is what, there is a probability that you consume amruta and there is a equal probability that you intake the poison. But if you have an information, oh, this is amrut and this is vish, then you will not take the vish and you will only take amrut, because amrut is good for you and vish is not at all good for you. So information is the primary key. You must know that fight and flight mode is not required for the day to day life. The moment we know it, the moment we know the information, 90% of things inside us starts changing. And the next step is when you're more aware, the remaining 10% also gets easily reset. So, thank you very much, Masters. This was all for today. Fight and flight mode versus rest and restore and respond mode. So, it is in our hands that what we choose, and what we choose will create our new reality. Thank you very much. Until we meet the next week again. And remember, if anyone, it could be you or anyone in your network, is feeling stuck in any which ways, or you need clarity, you need an inner guidance, you can opt for the Akashic Records counseling, which happens every day. Every day I meet a lot of women and all these things happen online and I guide them towards their purpose of life. So you can opt for it, or you can pass the information to the women who right now needs it. They can be meditators, they can be non-meditators. I guide every woman. And Bhutan trip, Bhutan, which is also called as a gateway to Shambhala, Vidyan Bhutan trip is coming fast. It is in February in the week of Shivratri. So all interested women, please message me and I would share the relevant details with you. And please make up to join this trip so that you can elevate yourself, you can meditate there and gain faster progress by meditating in the beautiful Himalayas than in the city. So it is like a once in a lifetime opportunity. Just grab the opportunity and be the part of the trip. Thank you very much, Masters. We will again connect next Wednesday. The year is coming to an end, so please, everyone, be maximum productive, bring maximum changes in your life, positive changes, meditate, and teach meditation to everybody. Thank you very much. Have a great night. Bye bye.